Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. We are so glad that you have joined us today, whether you're listening to this on the go or you're watching this. We are so happy to have you here. In the studio, I've got Miss Carlie Wilson to my left, and we're so glad that she's joined us today, and Mr. Brian Sevitz to my right. And we're happy to be with you here today. We're going to start out by recapping Sunday and just talking a little bit about the sermon time. This past Sunday, we started off our Christmas series called The Best Christmas Ever, and we talked about how God is always right on time, and that's a hard thing to trust in. Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to trust in, and to relinquish that at least idea of control, that we have to work things out. I was curious for both of you, did you have a example in your life where something worked out just exactly as it was supposed to because God had directed it and you were like, oh, okay, that was way better than I could have imagined?
Ooh, isolate tons of them, really. I mean, when
just give me one.
Okay.
I mean, I know there's a lot of them.
Well, I would say probably the biggest one was watching things unfold for Molly. And how it
and Molly's your daughter.
Molly's my daughter, middle child, oldest daughter. So I've got Justin, Molly, Josie, and just her desire for mission work and how the whole COVID thing got in the way. And literally, I think I was having a conversation with someone that she works with now, and before she ever went to South Dakota, ever even saw the Diamond Willow campus and people that she works with, but we're talking about, and what if this happened and what if that happened, and it was so funny because we just watched every single thing we talked about at that table. It was like yep, it all just happened. And so as a mom,
it's cool
for
to
your
watch
kid
it.
going into mission work, it was comforting to know he had everything worked out.
He's in control.
It's really cool.
No, you got anything like that?
I had a few. I'm just going to say the first one that came to mind because we were just talking about it, that we've had this gray vehicle for like a year now.
Oh, yeah.
And that it really seems like a dumb one compared to like life stories.
No,
it's
just example.
This vehicle situation last year was so stressful for us. Bad. Like at one point we had no vehicle because both were broken down. Anyway, we had looked for a vehicle and drove all the way down to Ozark to look for one. Look at one that I thought was a great thing, and they had misrepresented it. And like, I have a video that I was just deleting off my phone last night because I'm getting a different phone, and I punched my thumb through the frame. That's how rusted the frame was. And I thought my truck frame, which I got,
I'd say your truck frame was bad.
This one was like a rotten car frame on a Toyota RAV. Yeah. And I remember being so frustrated. But then we found this car on the way home
because you were
Facebook.
Because you were at the one that was bad. It got. It
was
you
in Lebanon. This one was in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Somebody had just got in an auction and it had been stolen. So it was we got a really good price on it. Didn't even spend our whole budget that we thought we were gonna have to spend in it. It was an example of that. Right on time, but not in the way we would have preferred. It taught us a lot of patience and perseverance. But cars and homes and stuff just do that.
Yes, they do.
It's life.
It is life. Yeah. Well, I hope that you have examples in your life of where God's timing worked out perfectly. And I just hope that Sunday was just a reminder for you to continue to be in awe of what God does. And just a reminder that we can trust Him even when we don't understand what's going on in the moment. So I hope that was encouraging for you. We're going to move on now to the TLCC top three things you need to know heading into this week. Brian, take it away.
All right. So the first thing we want to mention is, I guess part of the recap, I'll do this. The first night for Megatree went really well.
It was great.
It was cold, but not too cold.
Listen, holy smokes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes. It was very, very good. I thought, first off, I thought their rig, the food truck that was there, they had a really cool rig, but I thought the food was great. So,
and in case the other ones are watching, all of you
Oh
were
yeah,
awesome.
100%. They were all great. I just had never had.
I tried
before.
3 of them,
I've never
and the
heard
one
of
I
that
didn't
one either.
try, I've had several times. So
Yeah,
I kind of
okay.
was just
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
the other ones.
Yeah,
But
all of them were
everything I had was awesome.
Yeah.
There were like 360 something people
That's
that came
great.
out,
Yeah.
so that was great. We hope you got to enjoy it. But the announcement is the Mega Tree now is running every night, starting at 5:30 till 9. Last night, if you came by, there was a little glitch, and it played the same 5 songs over and over, I guess.
All night.
And
I felt bad for our neighbors here that have to hear that heard the same songs
I
over and
checked
over again.
it, but I had no idea. And it wasn't till the end of the night that somebody told me, why did you only have those 5 songs? There was no Disney stuff. There was no patriotic stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? So then I have to say, and if this person's watching, I was not trying to say you were a liar, but I had to look on the camera to actually see if that was true because everything I had programmed
Looked fine.
looked fine.
Right.
And so, but they were exactly right. It played the same songs. So I fixed that for tonight. And it is, for this coming Sunday, special event is a free s'mores night.
Yeah.
So free s'mores and hot chocolate. So if you don't like s'mores, still get you some hot chocolate.
And the weather should be decent. We were wanting to do something that got people out of their vehicles and mingling a little bit. So we'll have the fireplaces, and then you can get your s'more stuff, go make some s'mores, have some hot chocolate, and enjoy just some time together. And it's supposed to be decent weather for this coming Sunday.
So 5:30 Sunday night.
Yeah, always just bring your blankets.
Or bring your blankets, absolutely.
Bring your blanket with you, then you can get out of the car, wrap up.
It was 20s, wasn't it?
It was
Sunday.
very cold.
This
We
past
still had
Sunday
a
was
really
so
good
cold.
crowd outside of their cars
Yeah.
and stuff. So
But it was still
good.
cool.
It's good.
So yeah, s'mores night this week. We will have another food truck night the week after that, but we'll fill you in on that next week. You want to talk about the parade?
Parade's coming up. The community parade happens on this coming Saturday, December 7th at 3 p.m. And we will probably try to get there for lineup just after 2. They usually around they want you there at least a half hour before. But we could use some walkers. We are not allowed to throw candy. This is a great tragedy of our era and the time that we live in.
Totally.
I went to parades just to get hit with candy
Yeah.
as they came. But you're not allowed to throw candy, and they've had this rule for a couple of years. So we need some walkers who will have a basket of candy and just be passing it out. And so if you are able to and willing, we'd love to have you participate. It's a great way, also, 1, just to participate in the community, and 2, to give some information out about some of the special events that are coming up, and then just to have fun with one another. So if you're available, we'd love to have you walk with us on Saturday. This coming Saturday, we'll probably line up between 2 and 2:30. They usually have us line up by the city, what's it called?
Post office.
Yeah, around the...
The Lions Park. I think it's Lions Park. The gazebo. Right?
No. Tannehill.
It's they usually go
Tannehill
downhill,
All the way
downtown.
down farther.
But yeah, Tannehill, that park area. What's it? It's the railroad where the car is, isn't it? That's where they had us line up last year.
Oh, well.
Well, if they have, I will
We're
send.
sounding
Opposite end of-
completely
like, by the-
confused here.
We are confused.
They
They
usually-
usually line up in front of my house. It's down
Yeah, like
Reed
they
Street.
give-
They switched it. So
the
last,
gazebo and the water park
so
one's
they
on Reed
switched.
Street.
They reversed the whole thing
Oh, my
last
word,
year,
okay.
and they had us line up on the other end where they set up the Christmas tree, where the car park is, where we had our outdoor service.
Oh my word.
That's where they have us line. And I think that's the plan to do it this year. I'll have to
That's
double check.
interesting.
None of the other parades this year did that because they lined up right in front of our house.
Did they?
But
Okay.
probably for Christmas.
That's what they had us do.
Maybe
They had
it's
us
a little
line all the way up
smaller
that way.
and they're able to do
I don't know.
And they might want people there by their big tree.
I'll have to double check
downtown.
that. But regardless of where we start, we'll let you know. But we'd love for you to come out Saturday if you're able to. You can bring your kids. You can walk with us, and it's usually about an hour. We're done as we make it through the parade, and all you have to do is dress warm, and we'll have some stuff there for you to pass out. So that's Saturday at 3 p.m. is when the parade starts. Plan to be there a little bit before that, at least by 2:30.
All right. Third thing we want to mention is actually it's kind of a combo as well. But today we welcome Jesse Harper into the office for the first, well, not for the first time, but officially as being, the person that's been hired to
talk about a God timing thing.
Yeah. So she has come in just to start getting acclimated to the office and learn our rhythms around here and stuff while Dawn is still here this month. And Dawn's trying to share with her everything in her brain that is only just held in her brain, which is a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So they were literally like running over all around this building all day, and every time Dawn turns a corner, she's like, "Oh, we need to know about this. We need to know how this works." And I'm like, "That's the reason you need an acclimation period."
Yeah.
And thankfully, Dawn will still be around here to ask questions and stuff. But Jessie, we announced yesterday, I guess, that she's been hired. And along with that, we're going to be honoring Dawn on December 22nd. And we're not saying goodbye. She's still going to be our financial secretary. She's still going to be handling all the offering and paying the bills and payroll and all that, at least for as long as she wants to do that. So we're leaving that up to her. But
Todd allows her to.
Yeah, we're very thankful that she's continued to do that part right now, because that's a whole separate training piece that will take forever when it's time to bring someone else for that role. But the 22nd, we're going to be doing some special things for Dawn, and one of them is if you want to participate in a little card shower, we're going to have a reception in between the hours, and so we just want to let you know about that. It's a busy time of year, but we still wanted to do it before she officially finishes as the church secretary.
So write a card, have it ready for the 22nd. Share some words for Dawn, appreciation, maybe a memory or two if you have some that you want to share. And in between services, we'll have a spot set up where she'll be, and you can come by and give her a hug and tell her how much you appreciate her.
How long has she been our secretary? I was trying to remember.
322. No.
She looks good.
I know, she looks real good.
I want that skin.
We have to go back in the records, and it's one of my goals.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just ask her, but I was going to go back and see cumulative years, because she didn't just start here and work year after year. So she did a spurt here, then she came back and did a spurt here, and then she became the actual secretary.
Yeah.
So we need to add all that up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Just could not remember.
But she's been the church secretary, I know, since like the year after I came here. So it would have been 2008, I think, when she took over from Irene.
Yeah.
So that's
But she was hired here as a kind of assistant secretary for years before that.
Right.
So you're talking 20 plus years.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if she did.
Of being part of the church.
She said recently she told us that she actually was the janitor for a while, which I had no clue.
I did not know.
Early on, she was the janitor. She had kids. It was gone for a little bit. Came back. So
that was all Union Avenue.
Oh yeah. So that happens on the 22nd. So we've got Christmas stuff happening. The mega tree lights going on. This coming Sunday, we're going to have a s'mores, free s'mores and hot chocolate in the evening, and then we've got the Christmas parade that's happening on Saturday. If you're able to come join us, we'd love for you to join us for that. And then on the 22nd, Dawn will be honoring her and write a card. In between services, we'll have a little reception for her, and that'll be great. You good?
Okay.
All right. We have with us Carlie Wilson in the studio, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I people do get nervous, and you are a little nervous, which doesn't, for some people, it doesn't make sense because you're on the stage a lot. But here, like, people can only hear you and your voice.
Well, it's like I told Daniel beforehand, it's like singing, the words are kind of lined out for you and you pretty much know what's going to happen. But when I talk, there's no telling what's going to come out of my mouth. So it's a little...
Yeah.
I feel the same way, and that's why I script out everything. Daniel does so many things off the cuff and does them well, and I'm like, every Sunday I have a cheat sheet up there. It's not totally scripted, but I have something to guide me, because I don't know what will come out if I just start rambling.
Well, and a cheat sheet sounds really great, but then like I have to read it, and then my brain goes. Off the cuff is better, but just strap in because who knows what's going to happen. That's all I had to say.
Well, I'm excited that you're here. We want to talk about, Carlie does the decorations around here, and whether we have stuff going on for Christmas, which is her big thing, but you've also helped with VBSs, you've also helped with a ton of other stuff. So I want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. You also are in a stage of life where your children have grown and have left and are in the process of leaving. Yeah. And so we want to talk a little bit about that. But before we get to any of that, with a new guest, we asked them to tell us who they are in 60 seconds or less. So I've got my stopwatch here. If someone has never met you before, right? They've never met you at all. Who are you and what do they need to know? You ready? Go.
All right. Well, I'm Carlie Wilson. My husband is Alan. We've been married for 30. We're in our 31st year now.
Woo!
Yeah. We have 3 children. Justin, who's married to Mariah, has Benedict and Opal, our only 2 grandkids. And Molly, who is, Justin's 28, Molly's 24, and Josie, who is 21, about to turn 22. I have been a member at Union Avenue, now Timberlake, since 1992. And love serving, using my voice and other creative talents when people will tolerate me and let me do things. Yeah, so I don't know what else
10 seconds
to say. Yeah, I just love my biological family, my church family, and grateful to be part of both. So.
Well, you even did it with time to spare.
Did I?
Mm-hmm. Well
That's
done.
Impressive.
I am impressed.
Because
I'm very much impressed.
Not that way. So.
Absolutely. Okay, I asked you a couple questions ahead of time, so I didn't completely put you. I don't do this for Brian. I never tell him ahead of time. So let's start with decorating because you do a great job. And ever since I've been here, you've, especially on Christmas, you've kind of had a vision and you decorate it. Why put so much effort into decorating? I mean, what? It's a lot of work. We were just talking about how Saturday night before Sunday, you were here late.
Yeah.
Finishing up everything and getting stuff. Why put so much work into it?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons. I started doing this back at Union Avenue with Jim Meyer. He was in charge of it, had taken it over, I think, from Sarah Parks. And then he was needing a little bit of help. And so he got me. And by the time we got to Timberlake, schedules changed and I kind of became the forefront of that. And, I love Christmas, and I love pretty things, and I love creativity.
Which is why she married Alan, because she loves pretty things. There you go, Alan. It's for you.
But a funny portion of it is that I used to work and then spend lots and lots of time at Silver Dollar City. So there's the foundation of
your
being
inspiration.
Able to see,
all right,
the way that maybe I do things is kind of filtered through that. And I think part of the why, there's a lot of aspects to it, but part of the why is Christmas was very hard. Life was was hard, and I always.
When are you talking about?
When I was a kid.
Okay, all right.
And you were joking about asking people about what was your worst Christmas, and I was like, you know what? Pretty much from the time my parents got divorced till I got married, worst Christmases ever, right?
I've heard a lot of since this past Sunday. A lot of people have said I've got way more worst Christmas stories than I do best Christmas stories. Yeah,
and I always wanted as a kid Christmas to be really special. And my parents, they would try, and I remember lots of memories around my grandma's house at Christmas. But it was hard to make that one day. It couldn't overshadow the other 364 days of the year, and so I just. When in my high school years, when I became connected to and spending a lot of time at Silver Dollar City, it was like you were talking about with the Hallmark movies.
Magical.
It was magical. It was an escape. It was an emotional high, I guess, or just some comfort. Like it could kind of cover up what wasn't there. So much for me. So that visual portion of Christmas just became so important to me, and I'm a visual person anyway, right? So I put a lot into it because it is special to me, but also in the years since I've done it, it's just nice every once in a while to hear people come in and say, I won't say who, but one particular person came up to me that said, I was really having a hard time getting into the Christmas spirit. I've just been feeling really, really down. And I walked in today and I saw that tree in the back lobby, the little snowman one.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just stood there and cried, and it just helped me get in. And I think that things like that are true. I think that it gives people a little bit of an escape. And when they walk in here, it's something that can maybe help them to drop some of those walls down. And if the walls can come down mentally and emotionally, they're going to be more engaged in what's happening within the walls of the church. I love when you hear stories about the kids. Think about little kids that are anxious about getting left in Sunday school class, and they come in and they see it's been called everything, the candy tree, the unicorn tree, the who tree, whatever. But things like that just make kids feel comfortable. It makes people feel like, so I don't know.
That kind of gets into the second part of the question. And Brian, you could speak into this, because some people would think like, why would you waste money on that? Or it's a lot of time and energy, and this is just church, and don't focus on the atmosphere. As a Christian, how do you see, and as a visual person, how do you see the atmosphere playing into how it helps us or can help us with connecting with God, with what's happening within the four walls? So I'd like to hear both of your perspectives on that.
Yeah, the same thing happens at VBS. It's 1 week. Why do we do so much? Well, God gave us 5 senses, not just 1 or 2. He gave us 5, and one of those are our eyes. And so when we can, the more senses we can engage into, the more connected we are to the experience, right? So that's why I ask you, what's your sermon series? What are we doing this year on the stage? What's the feel? And of course, we've done some ridiculous ones. Hello, Grinch.
My Grinch one was I think that was my favorite one.
It's so cool. Last year was really awesome that people were able to walk in and their brains just went right into Narnia. They went right into this imaginary place. This year, it's about being at home and that retro home feel, but paying attention to the details of having the coffee mug and the cookies sitting on the end table. They were there. Well, what does that do? It takes you home, and now you're just listening to a story. You're more engaged in what's happening, and that it's important.
I like that. Engaging all 5 senses.
Yeah.
What about you? For you, because that's another conversation about spending money on lighting and the sound, and when we get our smoke machines going.
So there's a couple of people, maybe one of them, listening to this, that knows I've had this debate with them when we've switched up the stage or put the pixel lights on stage. And for one thing, people have it in their mind that we spent thousands of dollars on that. And I'm like, for one thing, you don't realize what we do on a shoestring budget here. And we didn't spend a lot of money on that relative to everything else. Excuse me. But aside from that, I think it's worth investing in. There's a limit to everything. And no, I'm not going to go out and buy an $80,000 LED wall like they have at CCV. Well, they probably have one that's $250,000 there. Yeah. But I'm just saying, relative to our budget, we're going to keep it under control. But I will put emphasis on that, and I won't back down from that atmospheric element, because it goes back to something that she said. For some people, and the people that rant against this are not visual people.
Mostly,
they're people that learn a different way. Yes. It doesn't really mean much to them. And so I have to try to not get defensive in that spot and say, I need you to understand the people that are wired differently from you. And for them to ever hear that message that you want them to hear, we have to break down some barriers. And the environment here can help do that. Literally, we even had a conversation going on this week about the way the church smells. Can matter.
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of things that matter to some people, and so we shouldn't forget about those people when we are coming up with our own preferences or things that we feel like should be emphasized. Obviously, there's balance to all of this. I can't, put a bunch of money into the stage and drop all of our missions. I mean, that
exactly.
All this has to be in perspective, but I think we do that well. And that's why I'll argue with people and say, okay, let me lay this out for you. Let's look at the budget we put into this project and show you that it was done in a responsible way.
Exactly. And that you're talking about, like the smell, our sense of smell is our weakest sense, but it's also the one that's most closely connected to memory. So if you think about that, I'm like, talk about the smell at Silver Dollar City. We were talking about that, and 1,000 memories come rushing back, or the smell of Grandma's house at Christmas time, and 1,000 memories come back. So those things are definitely important, and anybody, even people that don't realize they're being affected by other senses, not their dominant one or two, they're being affected. They just don't realize that they are. Right?
Yeah. And that was kind of the conversation with the smell thing, is you really shouldn't notice like the smells that you identify. A lot of times if you think about them, it's because it's bad.
Yeah.
So they should be subtle. It shouldn't be anything overpowering, partly because that'll bother a lot of people. But the places that you subconsciously identify with a certain store, or every time I walk into a Residence Inn, it smells different from a Fairfield Inn on purpose.
It's so funny.
And there's a study that somebody had sent me from another church that was about how long you hold on to I don't know the right word for it, basically a scent memory. And it is crazy.
I mean, I remember specific scents from literally my childhood. I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
And from 4, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
The smell of my grandmother's basement.
Yeah.
The smell of her apple pie.
Yeah.
It's right there. And
you can make a good case when you talked about, engaging in following after Jesus with all 5 of your senses, not just how you think, but who you are, what you do, how you're feeling in those moments. When we talk about like the Passover, and we've done this before, where we are trying to engage more than just thinking. We're trying to engage, feel this bone, feel this, taste this bitter herb. Part of that process is a lot of engaging the senses, and if we can do that creatively to enhance what our main goal is to ingest the Word of God, then it's going to be worth it. Yeah,
to teach it and hold on to it. Like you need all of those things to hold on to. You can learn a fact, but it doesn't become personal to you without emotion engaged. And emotion comes from engaging all those senses. So it's circular. We just can't function on just one thing.
Yeah, and we were joking about, the smoke machine thing, but I'm like, if it weren't for setting off our smoke alarm,
that's our main issue.
We have 2 of them at the church that I would be using more often, because atmospheric effects you can do with lighting are amazing. In certain series, we would definitely be doing that, and I think we will in the future. And I will make a very good case, like we are with all these other things, about why. And some of you who are not visual learners will not like it for one reason or another, and that's just the way it is. I mean, that's just, we're all wired a little differently, and I sure don't want to do things to be a distraction to others.
Sure.
But a lot of those things were like, well, you have grace or soften your own perspective on this because you realize it helps these people to be able to hear what we're saying.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly, to stay engaged, to stay focused.
All right, I want to shift gears because we don't have a whole lot of time left. So probably the most emotional of this conversation, which is having to do with your children. You're in a unique stage of life where 2 of your children have kind of moved on. You've got one that's still hanging on a little bit.
Yeah, she's on the edge.
She's on the edge. She's on the cusp.
We're deciding if she's gonna fly or if we're gonna kick her out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It might have to be a little boat.
My little boat.
So tell me what's been the biggest, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but just the difficulty for you and your husband through that time, and then what's just been something that's been really good that you maybe have learned or that you've experienced that you wouldn't have if you haven't walked through this. And then we'll get to finally what piece of advice would you give to people going through it?
Well, that's a lot.
I know it's a lot. And you have 3 minutes.
So, oh my goodness.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You can go lower.
So, I didn't do as well with it as I thought I was going to do, and I didn't realize I wasn't doing well until like 2 years into the not doing well, It's hard. I am naturally wired for protection, the natural fixer, like all of that kind of stuff that you want to do. And my kids, you know, like some of you, I'm sure, experienced the same thing, is they didn't just move out and they just live across town. Right. I have my oldest two
are
moved
like
out
opposite
and
directions.
away in opposite directions of the country. And so Justin's like 14, 15 hours away. Molly's 9 hours away. And not being able to be there it like right when they need you. You know, you can't just run in and not fix it, but even just to support. Like you have to do everything from a distance. And while I have a love-hate relationship with technology, I am very grateful for technology. We have little systems that or little fun things that we do with the kids, but it has been hard to just not be able to be right there to meet needs, especially like Justin's got his whole family. You know, he's got his wife and his children, but Molly currently is on her own, and that can be hard. And she's on her own in a lonely place, you know, and so it's I want to rescue her, but then what I'm learning is that you have to trust that God's got her, that everything she's going through is Him teaching her to rely on Him and His timing and all those things that you know. Yeah, you know. But you're not happy with it.
But you don't know here.
Exactly.
Like logically, I've heard this.
But emotionally, it just is hard, you know. And Josie's still at that place where we have regular contact and influence, but we don't know what's going to happen with her either. So trying to prepare her for that. So yeah, that would be the hard part. What was the next question? If
you could, you know, let's just talk to Brian and I right now. Okay. Hopefully not anytime soon, but you know,
it'll get here before you know.
It'll get here quickly. You know, what would you tell people that haven't gone through that as they're maybe preparing, as their kids are getting older, parents who are thinking about that? How do they think through, or what important things can they take, and that maybe would help them in areas that you feel are important?
Yeah. Okay. So things that really helped us, I think, we start when they're young. Start
what?
Start early to figure out how to move into those spaces of letting go. When our kids were little, like we never did fall into the, oh my gosh, just wait till they're teenagers. Like, because I think that when parents do that, well, for one thing, I was like, you're creating 50% of the problem, right? And you're going to blame it 100% on the kids being teenagers. But when they're little, you've decided they're going to be terrible, and they will definitely live up to that expectation. So we didn't ever do that. Our hardest part with the kids was when they were younger, getting through that. And then as they got older, we were able to communicate with them as teenagers and start building friendships. Like we haven't had to repair the relationships with our children of high school destruction. I'm not saying that across the board that's going to be the case with everybody, but I think that parents damage relationships with their kids, and then when they get older, it gets harder. Then because they have to go back and repair and now rebuild. And if your kids move out of the house and you have a damaged relationship with them, they're not going to be as likely to want to come home. Home is not going to feel like a safe place. Our parents are not going to feel like you said on Sunday, when you can go home and mom and dad take the responsibility and you just get to kind of
just be a kid
help
again.
when you need to help. But that's not the case for everybody, right? If you've come from a damaged home and a damaged relationship with your parents, that likely may never get repaired. And so my advice is to stop breaking the relationship between your with your kids at a young age.
Just be a better parent.
I don't mean it like that, because that makes it sound like we're really great. But I mean, it's by the grace of God. Because I remember having the conversation with God one day of like, I am breaking my children. I need you to come in and fix this. And it was like, he's like, finally, thank
I've been
you.
waiting for you to say that.
Here you go. You know, so be very cautious. That doesn't mean that you're there to be your children's friend. You still parent them through love, but also with a lot of grace and a lot of, I know that I'm screwing up here, guys. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
Just, a lot of honesty, a lot of openness, so that you don't have to repair relationships, and home and family but are always a safe space to be, because then when they leave, they want to come home.
I was going to say,
it's a big deal.
As you experience life, if you have a relationship with your parents, they're going to be the ones you call to say, hey, how do I deal with this? Or what
right.
about, so
right.
That's really good.
Yeah. So I think the first key to them going away that will make it easier for you as a parent is them wanting to come home. And it's our job as parents to create that safe space and that safe relationship.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and then just figure out fun little ways to stay connected, and like we have a family, group chat, and
we're gonna have to do a whole nother podcast on how do you be the best grandparent you can be from a distance.
Oh my gosh!
Because my parents have to do that,
it's so hard.
And I remember early on talking to my mom about how difficult it was for her, and she has struggled through it, and she's done a really good job of staying connected and doing intentional things with my children. But it's really hard when you're plane ride away really from your grandkids, and how do they still know you? So that's a whole separate podcast.
That is, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
I should talk to your mom and get some better lessons.
I think so.
She's got lots of grandkids.
She probably got some insight there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the volunteering that you do. The stage looks beautiful. Church looks beautiful, and I'm so grateful for your input and the advice that you've given. We're grateful that you're here as well. Thank you for joining us this week on the Ripple Effect podcast, and we'll be right here again, and we'll see you on this next episode.